The Packers under general manager Ted Thompson in the 2000s had an amazing run of productive college free agents. Among those was offensive lineman Evan Smith, who came in as an unheralded rookie free agent and learned his lessons well under longtime Packers offensive line coach James Campen.
Campy was my guy. Campy taught me a lot about playing football. His knowledge of being a former player taught me how to run a line, taught me how to, just have confidence in what I do. He brought me along very well. I have a lot of respect for that guy. He meant a lot to me in my career for sure.
There's an interesting group of offensive linemen on that team. Tell us a little bit about that. What are your remembrances of that?
Man, I got all the guys that I played with here. I mean, I think a handful of them are probably going to end up on the wall down there at some point. I know Josh and TJ will probably end up down on the walls down here. I got to play with Tausch, Cliff, Scott Wells, Darren College, Marshall Newhouse, Brian Balaga. Dave was a rookie my last year here. So, I got to play with Josh and TJ. Those guys taught me a whole lot about playing ball. When I started out, I think Josh had just made, first team All-Pro. TJ was coming along, and then they flip-flopped him my last year, and that's, and then you guys got after I left, Josh was left and TJ was right for the rest of the time, so.
Let me ask you about the 2009 season. You're a wide-eyed rookie, but the Packers kind of struggled through the first half of that season and then catch fire down the stretch. Won 7 of the last 8 games or whatever, make the playoffs. High-scoring team, Aaron Rodgers really coming into his own the whole bit. Give us your thoughts on that season. Could you sense that this team was going places?
It's one of those things. I got to kind of experience my whole college career. We weren't really good. We lost a lot. And my whole high school career, I was on some good teams that we won a lot, and I won with some really good players. And then when they left, I kind of noticed how being on a team with really good players, shapes a team. I got here, and we had Charles Woodson, Nick Collins. Al Harris was there. I think that was Al's last year. He tore his ACL, I think, in the second game of the year or something like that in 2009. And that's what sparked Tremon's run as being a great corner. But that was my first real experience at seeing a team with just an incredible amount of talent and what it looks like to be that. And then as the year came along, we kind of found our groove. And it was, the next year we got one of these.
Yeah.
But it was, you could see it. You could see it coming in training camp, because I think that was also the first year they just switched over to the new defense with Dom. So that, everything, it was a gelling process. But me and Charlie were just talking about it. It's teams hit their stride at certain points of the year, and we peaked right in the middle of the season and rode it all the way to that, that incredible playoff game in, at Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, into that crazy OT, and next year, it was, the fire was there. I remember when we got to training camp, you could just kind of tell. That year I wish I would have done a little more in the off season to get myself ready for that, but I got cut. I went to Seattle, and then I came back. And when I came back, I knew I had to bring kind of a different attitude to it, and I did. And I got to watch these guys basically just great Super Bowl team just flourish.
So coming out of training camp 2010, there was a real feeling, at least outside, but inside the team too, that this team was going places.
You could just tell. The level, the level of competition was very, very high. Day in and day out, it was. Guys were out there making plays. Aaron was just another year mature in Mike's system, and the gunslinger was just starting to come out in him, a little bit more. And but it was there. You remember that wide receiver unit? There was so much talent oozing on that roster. Just when it all came together, it was something awesome.
But you ended up in Seattle for the front part of the season, as you mentioned before. So you're playing for Pete Carroll in the infancy of his tenure in Seattle. What was that like? What did you notice about Pete Carroll and that team and the way they did business?
Pete was, Pete was a good guy. My stint there was very short. Like I said, I was very young in the league. I didn't quite understand the business and how it all really went at that point. Because like I said, my first year, I made the team and I was playing and I was doing, I was kind of on the roster because And then my second year, then I was kind of experienced the business end of the NFL, but seeing what he had to do, and it's what a lot of teams do. It's you have to shuffle guys. You have to find guys that fit your scheme, your style, your system. You have to have a vision with the coach and the GM and the personnel department and everything. And I think that year I was one of like 350 transactions that they'd set a record in the league with. But I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to plug and play. You got to find it, and then guy obviously found all the pieces, and took them to. They've had a good run, and they're still doing it up there.
All right. So you're once you leave Seattle, you're down a few weeks. You're out of the league for a few weeks, and then you get a call. Somebody said on New Year's Eve to come back to the Packers.
So this is how it was. My wife was pregnant. We had. I wasn't in the NFL. We weren't really kind of sure what we were going to be, and we were sitting in Seattle. So we moved back to California where I grew up. We had my daughter who's now 10, and I quickly figured out that I need to get a job, and so I started working out. I was going to do substitute teaching at the time, and then it was like right after Christmas. James Campen called me and asked me what I was doing. Like if I was in shape. I was like, well, where are you kind of getting at here, buddy? Kind of deal. And then, sure enough, my agent called me, and about a few phone calls later, I was heading on a plane back here, And then when I got back here, I could kind of see, because I was watching all the games through the year, and you can kind of see when the switch started turning for the team after that New York game and everything. And, guys started to believe because, once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Wow. And so you joined that team that you were very familiar with because you had spent training camp with that group.
The roster wasn't far from what it was when I left.
Minus the injuries.
Yes, minus the injured guys. I mean, and when I got there, I mean, the O-line group was pretty much the exact same. And, I just came in, and my biggest thing was just to, try and come in and just practice hard, make these guys work and, do best I could, because at that time, you could feel the energy even in every practice. I mean, guys, I think during the Super Bowl week, I ended up getting in a fight during practice on a Wednesday, just out there just going after guys, just out there getting after it, and guys got heated and stuff. But we had a fight in the middle of Super Bowl week, practice and stuff, just having fun, man.
When did you on the team, because you were part of that 5-week run to the Super Bowl, when did you guys as a team realize that you could win the Super Bowl? Because I'll tell you when we realized it, the Atlanta playoff game, number 1 seed Atlanta, they had the week off, you had played the week before, gotten by Philadelphia, and now you're in Atlanta, number 1 seed, the dome is rocking, and you guys just lit them up, and at that point in time, it was obvious to me that you guys are the best team in the league. Is that when you realized it, or did you guys know before?
I think the week I came back, that Bears game, when it was win or go home.
Yep.
You could tell then. You could tell then that, and the Bears knew then. They messed up because the Bears were the number 1 seed in the NFC, end up going down there, or they were the number 1.
They won the division.
Yeah, they won the division.
Number 2 seed.
We ended up playing the NFC Championship down there against them, and but they knew we had a second chance at them. It wasn't going to go their way. It didn't matter where it was. I remember watching that game. I mean, we won 10-6 or something like that. Yeah. Like last minute, D. Lee, a little tight end sneak right in the goal line, and we went to the biggest thing I thought was getting through that wild card game in Philly, and Shimon had that pick to seal the game. I was like, this is over. I was like, no one's beating us the rest of the time, because I mean, we had the defense at that was probably their biggest test on the back end, and I didn't really think that there was going to be another a set of receivers that would be able to do anything. And that was it. Once we beat Philly, I think the team kind of knew, like, the train was on the tracks and it wasn't slowing down.
What was Super Bowl like? Super Bowl week, the preparation, all that went into it in the game day. What was that like?
It was fun. I mean, like I said, I think the biggest part was the business attitude, the energy and intensity that we had when we stepped on the field to practice that whole week. When we were in, when it was time to do football things and football meetings, everything, guys were locked in. you know, because there was a lot down there. I mean, I had family, everybody had all their family members, as many people as you could get that you had tickets for. You know, the week itself is just crazy busy. But when we had to step into doing football things, I mean, it was laser focus. I mean, practices were sharp. You know, and it was funny too, because I remember we got down there, you know, we had the snowstorm and everything, so we were going to practice at TCU, and that all went because they didn't have an indoor facility at that time. So we had to go to this high school, like a $2 million indoor facility, you know, in Texas, of course. So it was, but we go to the facility, and yeah, it was like it was like over in the Hutchins Center. We were just out there, we were just playing, and but the one thing that always stood out to me, like I said, was the focus and the energy of those practices were, you know, very, very high level for going into that week, being a part of that, you know, being a part of that whole run and kind of just seeing it, because like I said, the year before we only had just a taste of the playoffs, you know, and then you get to see it, and then obviously we won it, and then we saw that kind of every year as we went along. But
Mike McCarthy did something interesting Super Bowl week. On the eve of the Super Bowl, he actually had you guys fitted for your rings. What did that say to you?
I was thinking something along the lines of like how HomeGrid did the stack of money for the guys, you know, beforehand. You know, it was kind of one of those things. You know, in Mike's mind, we weren't losing that game. You know, so that's, you know, I think that trickled down to a lot of guys too. You know, it's like, hey, we're going to get size for one of these bad boys. I know the other team had to do it, but you know, you could have waited. You could have done that earlier in the week at some point. But he strategically did that as just another little dropping in the back of your head for some motivation, for sure. It was pretty cool. But you know, once we actually all got to see these and we won and everything, and then you get to put one of these on your finger, it holds a different weight than any other thing you put on your hand.
The Packers went on to win Super Bowl 45. Evan went on to further his career in Tampa Bay, but Green Bay kept calling.
I love it here. I grew up in a farm town in California. We grew up where Pebble Beach is, about 100 miles south of San Francisco. But where I grew up, it was farmers. It was a farm town built by farms. You know, that's strictly the reason the town came to be, was because the land was meant to farm. So when I came here, it reminded me very much. I went to college in a small town. I came here, and I kind of still had that same feeling. And then I met my wife here, and her family was here. And for me, it just seemed like this kind of lifestyle fit me a little bit better than going back to California. It was a little more expensive. Some financial stuff kind of played a big role, but here for sure always felt like home. You know, regardless, that's one thing too, was after I got cut my second year, we told ourselves we have to find somewhere it's going to be home. So no matter what happens in this life, this is where we go. We picked here because it was just kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, winter, you don't mind winter now in the business you're in, right? You kind of like it and root for winter?
You know, like I said, I grew up in California. We didn't get snow. You know, my favorite thing to do was as a kid, we used to go up to the snow, go snowboarding. Like, I was really good at snowboarding by the time I left high school. When I was in college, I was so excited because everyone in the winter always be like, oh man, this is terrible. I'm like, we lived 20 minutes from a ski hill when I was in college. So during the winter, all we had was conditioning. We didn't have football stuff. So me and a handful of guys that always snowboarded, we'd always just get in the car, go down there and go snowboarding on Wednesdays when we didn't have workouts. And then I come here, so now I got my snowmobile. So I got, I got stuff I like to do in the winter. I don't mind doing the snow. I think it's kind of, having the four seasons makes you enjoy all of them a lot more. You know, because then when things start changing and it gets nice out, you get outside a lot more. So, but yeah, my business involves me being outside quite a bit. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. So, but I have a good time doing it.
Last question: your experience as a Packers player in this environment, in this town, in the NFL. Tell us about it.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, maybe Buffalo would be about the only other town that would have anything close to this, but it doesn't have the legacy that Green Bay does. You know, you know, the whole town just feels historic, you know. And then of course when you come over the 72, you come right over the Fox, it's just like, bam, here's this giant gem right in the middle of this whole thing. Factories, blue collar, you know, just hardworking people that are really, really nice. You know, everything that this place has been a representation of this organization since it was founded, from what I can tell. And I think that's just probably one of the greatest parts about being a part of the legacy of the Packers, because you can go anywhere you want, but not every place has a story like this does.
And today, Smith is a businessman in the greater Green Bay area, because for this California native, Green Bay and the Packers are home.